Okay, let's unpack this. Generative AI. I mean, wow. It feels like just yesterday we were talking about AI being this abstract, futuristic concept, and now it's just exploded into our daily lives.
Absolutely exploded. Tools like ChatGPT seem to appear almost overnight.
Yeah, suddenly they're creating text, generating images, even writing code. Stuff that, just a few years ago felt like pure science fiction.
We've all seen those examples, right? An article that sounds incredibly human or an image that's just startlingly realistic, all conjured by AI.
It is genuinely revolutionary.
No question. And the speed these tools took off just shows how powerful they are. They're trained on these, well, enormous data sets. They can generate and manipulate content at a scale we haven't seen before.
But here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit complicated too, because this amazing technology, it definitely comes with some significant challenges. So today we're doing a deep dive into the ethics around generative AI. We're going to focus on some of the big issues, especially this fascinating and sometimes kind of concerning thing people call hallucination.
That's right. And for this dive, we're really leaning on the insightful work of Professor Hyoungbin Park from Seoul National University of Education.
Professor Park. Okay.
Yeah, Professor Park has done some extensive analysis looking at how generative AI works, the problems it creates, and importantly, what we can actually do about it. That includes thinking about how we need to teach the next generation, about AI ethics.
Right. So for you listening, our mission today is basically to walk through Professor Park's analysis. We want to help you really get a handle on the key ethical hurdles with Gen AI, especially that hallucination problem.
And just generally highlight the awareness we all need to navigate this new digital world.
Yeah, effectively.
It's about understanding the capabilities, for sure, but just as important is understanding the limits, the potential risks. Generative AI is incredibly powerful, no doubt.
But that power needs, well, understanding and maybe a healthy dose of caution from us, the users.
Exactly. Caution is a good word for it.
Absolutely. So let's maybe start at the beginning. At its core, what exactly is generative AI? How did this capability emerge so quickly?
Okay. So fundamentally, generative AI is a type of machine learning. It's built specifically to produce new content that could be text, images, audio, video. It does this based on patterns it learned from, as I said, enormous data sets. Think models like GANs, they're often used for creating those realistic images.
Right, the image generators.
And then there are the transformer-based models, like the GPT series. Those are the ones that have really shown when it comes to generating human-like text.
And those GPT models, they were the engine behind that explosion into public awareness, weren't they? Like ChatGPT.
Precisely. Tools like OpenAI's ChatGPT just went viral instantly. Unprecedented user growth.
Everyone was talking about it.
Because it showed this surprising ability to generate coherent, very human-like text for all sorts of tasks. Writing essays, emails, coding help, even poetry, just from a simple prompt.
And how does it do that?
Well, it stems from being trained on a massive, massive amount of text from the internet. It learns to predict what words should come next in a sequence. That lets it build sentences, paragraphs, whole documents that feel natural and cohesive.
I remember hearing all the stories, generating really compelling articles or even fiction. It sounds incredibly capable.
It is.
But I guess that capability is also where some of the problems start to creep in.
It is, yeah, because while the models are brilliant at generating plausible-sounding language based on patterns, that language isn't always tied to factual accuracy.
Oh, okay.
And that leads us straight into the core ethical challenge we're focusing on from Professor Park's work, the hallucination phenomenon.
Hallucination. That word, it makes you think of seeing things that aren't there. Is it similar with AI?
In essence, yeah. Though it's worth noting, some researchers prefer other terms like AI confabulation or misinformation, maybe to avoid making the AI sound too human or stigmatizing the term.
Okay, fair point.
But the core idea is that these generative AI models can churn out content that looks factual, sounds realistic, but is actually completely made up, fabricated, untrue.
Wow.
It creates this sort of synthetic reality that someone could easily mistake for the truth.
So it's not just making an error, it's presenting a fabrication confidently.
Yeah.
Like without any warning label saying, hey, I just made this up.
Exactly that. These models are optimized to produce the most statistically likely continuation of whatever text came before based on all that training data. They're not designed to check against real-world facts first. It's about probability, not truthfulness.
So they're like parrots.
Some data scientists use that term, yeah. Probabilistic parrots. They're incredibly good at mimicking the patterns, the syntax, the style of language they learn from, but they don't have any real understanding of the concepts or facts underneath.
Which mean?
Which means they can blend perfectly plausible language with totally incorrect information. And it sounds consistent, it sounds convincing, so users are much more likely to just accept it as fact without double-checking.
That's worrying. Can you give another specific example from Professor Park's work, maybe? What does this look like?
Professor Park gives a really striking example in his analysis, actually. He describes asking ChatGPT 3.5, how did Admiral Yi Sun-sin win the Battle of Cheongsonnery?
Okay.
And the AI model replied that this was one of Admiral Yi Sun-sin's great victories against the Japanese fleet. Now, if you don't know Korean history well, that might sound